Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a lot of banter. I'm Heather,
I'm Kristi
and today we are talking about Doodles in America.
in America. Yes. But before we get started, if you haven't already, go ahead and feel free to pause and then rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. And we also have an Instagram now at Sometimes There's Side Eye. So check us out there. We will have content coming soon as well. So shall we get into Doodles?
Oh my.
So first of all, let's just say we are not going to be hating on Doodles in this podcast. So,
I'm taking a
but
deep breath.
just like in everything, we're asking you to consider lots of different angles,
That is true.
come to your own conclusions and move forward with that. But we're just going to throw a couple different things to think about
Mhm.
when it comes to Doodles at you. So,
So,
uh,
just sit down, have a little listen. My purebred upbringing is crying a little swan song, but at the same time, I'm looking around and I'm saying, hey, the market has spoken. People want doodles.
yeah,
I've had several through my training program, and people are really, really passionate about them, probably as passionate as I am about Rottweilers. I mean, to be honest.
yeah.
And so I think we all just need to maybe simmer down a little bit and have a conversation and a little food for thought. And we're going to let Kristi take it away because she's our resident doodle expert.
I am not a resident doodle expert, but my best friend does have a doodle, a labradoodle. I would say that kind of started me on the journey about learning about doodles, and Heather to an extent too,
True, true.
because Michelle needed some help. She absolutely did not want to go to a backyard breeder. She didn't want to contribute to animals dying in a shelter just because she wanted a certain breed of dog. She wanted to be careful about her selection, but she also had a lot of requirements that were not out of line. And so a lot of times people would tell me, well, there is no justification for getting a doodle. And then I would say, well, let's talk about my best friend who does have dog allergies. So she does need a hypoallergenic dog. She's not as experienced in dog ownership. This is her first dog as an adult. So
Hmm.
she does need a breed that is more willing to work with her, a little more forgiving. A pit bull is not
I
the breed for
no,
her.
or
In
a
fact,
Rottweiler. My goodness. Like, are we
nor a Rottweiler.
trying to set her up for failure? God.
Right. In fact, Lucy takes advantage of her all the time. Like, she's allergic to Lucy. Lucy wants to sit on her lap in the Jeep. When we went on a hike, I remember Lucy crawled in her lap and she just said, "Oh, Lucy, could you maybe get back? No, okay, you can just stay here." And meanwhile, she's like breaking out in hike. And meanwhile, I'm like, "Lucy, get in the back. That's not
Yeah.
that you don't sit up here." So we needed a breed that would work with somebody who's a little softer. And that's not in a bad way. That's just, yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
And can
You
I
were
interject
gonna
and
say.
say that
Yeah,
Michelle spent so many hours having conversations with me as well about dogs on kayaking
yeah,
trips.
yeah.
She was so inquisitive about just dog ownership in general. So
Mhm.
I hate when people just assume, oh, they got a doodle, they know nothing. It's like she didn't make
Yeah,
a rash decision. She
no,
really thought this through for months and months and months. And she sought out information. She looked at different options. She went and visited a purebred breeder. I mean, she did so many different things
yeah,
that we all, when we say the whole quote, doing it right thing, she did it right. She did
yeah.
everything that we ask people to take the time to do. So I just wanted to interject and say this wasn't some flippant rash. Oh, she just went and bought a doodle. No, it was not like
Right,
that at all. So anyway, carry on.
right. So I went with her. We looked at Portuguese water dogs, which she loved as well, but the breeder that we went to did not have any more puppies
And they were never
after
going to
we
select
visited.
her. Let's be honest.
And they
She's a
were
first time
also,
dog
yeah,
owner.
there was definitely a wall that went up, and I'm not sure why, but we definitely both felt that at the end. It was going well, and then it was suddenly like, no, you're not the right people to have a
Yeah.
dog. But she met the dogs, the doodles, the labradoodles from the breeding program before she ever selected a breeder. She learned about the coats and just so you know, if you're not familiar, there are, I won't get into all of it, but F1s, F2s,
Oh
all
boy.
these
Don't
numbers and
ask me.
letters, and
I don't
she could
know.
tell you, yeah, Michelle could tell you all about it. I just kind of tuned my brain out and was like, yeah, that's not information I want or need to know. But she
We
did.
love you,
And so
Michelle.
yes, so Michelle's smart and she can contain that information in her brain. I just knew I didn't have enough room to in my brain for that.
Christy's like, I am now
Um,
checked out. Oh, so is that what you do when I start talking about pedigrees and Rottweilers? You're just like, "Okay,
a
checked out."
little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay,
Like
good
I
to know.
listen, but I just note it
It's
as this
not
is
just
not
Doodles.
information I'll contain.
It's Rottweilers. It's all pedigree. Do not talk to Christy about pedigrees ever.
Learned a lot about pedigrees
No,
by
just giving
talking
you
to you,
shit.
but I could never tell you who did like who bred to what dog, like which you will tell me in detail.
I mean,
I'm like,
sometimes I
okay,
don't
that's
remember,
cool.
to be fair. I'm not that young anymore, but yeah.
So Michelle did all this amazing research. She found out at what level the dogs are hypoallergenic. So just so you know, if you're thinking about a Labradoodle, if your friend has a lab and they found a poodle to mix it with, just decided that they're going to sell the puppies now, there's a good chance that that dog will not be hypoallergenic.
Yeah, you have to
It
test
takes
for all
several
that stuff.
breeding. Yeah, it takes several breedings of Labradoodle to Labradoodle before it becomes that all of the puppies in the litter are
And it has
hypoallergenic.
to be the right selection with the right genetics to make that
Right.
happen. You can't just automatically say, well, I have a Labradoodle here and I have a Labradoodle there. They have to have
Right.
correct genetic makeup, as if I
Yes.
sound like a
So if you have
scientist for
two
saying that.
Labradoodles, it'll increase your chances, like more of those
Yes,
puppies
correct.
will be hypoallergenic, but not all of them. Like,
Correct.
and until you get into a certain amount, I think it's something like 5 breedings deep or so. I don't know. That's beyond me. But they are hypoallergenic to a degree, but you have to know
And your
the
breeder should be
F2s and
educated on that.
absolutely. And Michelle did not know when she very first started. She, like the rest of us, just assumed that Labradoodles were hypoallergenic. And her breeder spent a lot of time educating her what it means for hypoallergenic and why she selects the dogs she selects in the breeding program. She also let us meet dogs in the breeding program to make sure Michelle was not allergic to those dogs because she said, hey, I just want to make sure before I get attached to a puppy, I just want to kind of like rub my arms around and make sure I'm not having allergies to these dogs. And it went really well. The dogs we met were wonderful. And immediately, like, I love the dogs. I love Michelle's dog. I also know that this is not the right breed for me as well.
Same.
Barking hurts my nerves.
Ooh.
Legitimately, it hurts my nervous system when dogs bark. And so if you see me cringe when a dog barks, that's usually why, because it's shooting pain through my whole nervous
And
system when
yet you
that's
love
happening.
Tater, but whatever.
And I love Tater, but his bark is more like a "Ugh,"
Justifying Tater's
not
bark.
like
I
a
love it. It's bullshit. No, but I
um
I do get what you're saying, because even probably 5 years ago, like, my doodle hate was hardcore. I've evolved and
yeah.
changed and whatnot.
Mhm,
And a piece of that is Michelle's journey, and
mhm,
watching her go through everything with you, having your guidance and us having conversations that turned into apparently now a podcast, because this is literally the kind of shit that we would talk about. Questioning,
this
like,
is
well,
really where it started.
it's really, yeah, where the seed was planted. Just talking about things like, well, what if someone is breeding these really nice family dogs and
Mhm,
it's a doodle and people want
mhm,
them and they're living these great full lives? The dogs are not ending
right.
up in the shelter system and the person's doing health testing. I'm sitting back going, well, how do I have a problem? Like, why do I really, really at my core have a
Right.
problem with this? And now that I've spent more time with doodles, for me personally, I'm like you. They're not for me. I don't find them aesthetically pleasing. I don't find
I don't
them,
think that
oh, no,
yeah,
nothing.
but I understand. Yeah.
Nothing. And I don't find them behaviorally appeasing to me. I find them easy to train. Everyone I've had through my program has been very easy to train. It's just not my cup of tea. But then again, neither is a Labrador or a toy poodle
You
or
you
so
shut your mouth about those labs.
I know, right? There's so many breeds that are not my cup of
Yeah,
tea.
that
So
are amazing dogs.
yeah, that are amazing dogs for other people. So
Yeah.
I just want to qualify like, oh, no, thank you on the doodles at this point. I'm just like, it's just not for me. Clearly for Michelle, her and her dog are obviously a match made in heaven and she loves her more than anything on the earth.
They're
And
like best friends, and
that's
that's
what
what she
we
said. She said,
want.
"I just want a best friend," like,
Yes.
in a
And
dog
isn't that
form.
what we want? We just want
Yeah,
owners and dogs to have a joyous relationship and life together. That is what we
yes.
want. So if that's our goal, and for Michelle, that's a doodle who I just want to call a doodly do, there you go.
Yeah,
But
absolutely, and I have to say there's a demand for the breed
yeah,
for a reason. We're not meeting that demand in other places, like
yeah.
with working dogs and with,
Right, because
some
a
other
Rottweiler is
breeds.
not for everyone, just like a
Right,
lab is not the right fit for me. It's no different.
right.
It is absolutely no different. And we want people to choose a dog that is the right fit for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say I tried to find Michelle. She was very open to going to the shelter. And so
That's
I
right.
did try to find her a Labradoodle in the shelter for
And
oh
how many in the
for over
shelter
a year.
system did you find, Christy,
I think I found a total of 4
in a
in
year?
about a year and a half,
Mhm.
even with me volunteering at the shelter
Yeah,
and getting the inside scoop on certain dogs, they were snatched up before
yeah,
she could even get to the
yeah,
shelter. Or there were pretty severe behavioral problems that I would say, I'll send it to you, but I don't think this is the right dog.
yeah,
And then she did find two options through rescue, but they were the same price as what she paid through a breeder,
yeah,
and they did not come with health clearances.
yes.
Her breeder does test the parents for common ailments in the lab breeds and the poodle breeds. So
Yeah, hold on to your hats right now. This breeder is
yeah,
testing for health clearances.
yeah,
She is doing
there
it.
are there are breeders out there who are doing health testing. So
Correct.
and when we talked, I said, if it were me for the same exact price, I would want to know the parents of the
Yeah.
dog and I would want to know the health testing if I had that option, rather than just paying the same price just to say I rescued a dog.
Yeah.
I'm always going to say rescue, 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 but if it's the same price and you can have background and you can have
And she had the
um
allergy stuff. She's a first-time dog owner. Like, there were a
yeah.
lot of elements there.
Yeah, and I will say the nice thing is she stayed in touch with her breeder.
Mhm.
If she has questions, she's able to contact her breeder, and she has contacted her breeder about things. Her breeder recommended trainers. So there's an ongoing relationship. By no means does everyone who has purchased from this breeder have that, but she is willing to have that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
her purchasers, which is mind blowing to me because I did
See,
not
now
think we
not
would find
me, because that's the way it's supposed
like,
to be.
well, I know that's the way it's supposed to be, but I had been told for so long that you would only find backyard breeders, only people who were only in it for the money. There were no good players when it came to
Yeah.
doodles.
And I
And there's a
think
lot of bad players in the field,
yes.
but there's some good ones too.
Yes. And there's some people who are really trying to organize doodles in general
Mhm.
to create a sort of network, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Just like Rottweilers have a national breed club and then have regional breed clubs, so on and so forth. There are people who are trying to create and successfully creating the same sort of support for doodles in the US. I don't know about outside of the
Yeah.
US, but for here in the US. And so we have people who are extremely passionate and they really are trying to create the same sort of systems in the way of support and education, push for health clearances, push for ethical breeding, push for reputable breeding, all these different things, just like we have from the purebred people. At the end of the day, do we have to talk about where purebreds came from? The first person who had what was called a Rottweiler didn't have a Rottweiler. I mean,
Right.
and I get it. Oh, what's their purpose? Was it, you know what? My argument is their purpose is to be a freaking family pet to Americans everywhere.
Yeah.
That's their
Right.
purpose.
As we move away from some of the, I mean, we don't need dogs for jobs at this point.
No,
Some
not
people
all
still do.
dogs.
Right. But not every dog needs a job. I mean, Lucy's job is to be entertaining, make me laugh,
Well,
and
and if you want to
and
go,
and enjoy life.
right.
That's her job. I think outside of the purebred, the show and the competition world,
Yeah,
I think we need to realize that 90% of households are looking for an
family
additional
pet.
family member
Yeah.
just to hang out with, not to enter into competitions or to go to shows with. Yeah, the demand is for a family pet at this
Yeah.
point. A lot of people.
Majority. And the thing
Yeah.
is, if you're like, "Oh, I still hate doodles," then don't buy one.
Yeah.
I mean,
But like let's let people like choose their own breed.
right, can you
Uh,
imagine if somebody told me you can like the Rottweiler is the absolute dog for you, but you absolutely can never have one. No, it's not okay. And I'd be
And
like,
I know we'll get some backlash on me saying let people get the breed that they want because the other argument is they're not a breed.
"Yeah,
Um,
well, we don't care about that
but
right now." Like, can we
but
just have an
come on,
easy
guys. Like
conversation?
let's not let dogs be divisive.
Yes.
There's so
Yes.
much in this world that is so divisive. Let's just let people choose the right dog and the right fit for them and give them the education to do that when they ask for our input.
Yes.
Be prepared to give them that information and give them other alternatives. Be prepared to answer some of those questions for them. I know Heather answers a lot of questions about grooming that comes up a lot in the doodle breeds.
So one of the things that I think needs to be talked about in regards to doodles, and really any dog that needs regular grooming, is that doesn't just mean once every 6 weeks you pop your dog onto a mobile grooming truck and that's the end of your responsibility. If you have a dog that has true grooming needs, then one, you need to be training that dog on how to be comfortable with those needs. So that can be anything from brushing to clippers to a hair dryer, any of those type of requirements. That's something that needs to be ongoing so that they can be comfortable throughout their life. When I have doodle clients come to me, one of the first things in the training is pop them on a grooming table. I guess that comes from my background with my mom being a groomer when I was a kid. It just makes sense to me. It goes way beyond just nail trimmings for any dog that has to go to a groomer. I think that the doodle groomers who are, quote, doing it right are doing a good job of explaining these things to owners. I know that Michelle got a really good education on it, and that needs to follow through. It's something that needs to really be talked about. And I don't think that it's an area where we should use that as an excuse to then shame doodles because there's plenty of breeds that need consistent grooming, brushing, etc., for them to be happy, healthy dogs. Let's instead flip it around and say, hey, it's great for this dog owner to have a proper education on what this dog's grooming is going to require long term. And that way, everybody can be prepared because it's also a financial expense. Grooming is not cheap, and it's something that you need to expect and take into account for the longevity of your dog. And then also finding a good groomer. You need to be looking for a good groomer, not 1 week before you need your dog to be groomed. You need to be
Yes.
looking for a good groomer like before that puppy ever even comes home. Just like we talked about the support system in our last episode for puppies. If you are getting a doodle puppy, one of the things that, or any breed that is coded and needs regular grooming, one of the things that should be on your support list is for a regular groomer. That is something you will need for the lifetime of the dog.
And I think just to be totally honest, there's a lot of groomers that don't accept doodles anymore, unfortunately. So I think it would be important then to also know how the groomer feels about doodles in
Yeah.
general. Because even if they allow them, but they're like, oh, I hate doodles. Like, that's
Yeah.
not where, if I have a breed of dog that is allowed to go somewhere, but that person is like, but I hate your breed.
Right.
Like, that's not where I want my dog
Right.
to
I wouldn't
be.
take
Because
Tiago
that's,
to a trainer that hates Rottweilers.
yeah, same. I wouldn't take Lucy to a trainer who hates pit bulls, or a veterinarian that hates pit
Right.
bulls. And so I think probably, in my opinion, what happened was a lot of those breeds that require regular grooming are specialty breeds, like a Wheaten Terrier or a Portuguese water dog, breeds that people who buy those breeds know those
Are
breeds,
educated. Yeah.
are educated beforehand. And I think people got really excited about Doodles, and there's a lot of backyard breeders in that, just like every breed, who didn't educate people
Yeah.
on that. So they went into it, and all of a sudden now there's all these tangles in their
Right.
dog, and their dog of course is reactive
And
to
matted.
being groomed because it's matted. And so I think as we are here with a world of Doodles, let's just make sure that they are as educated as any other breed,
Yeah. Who
non-shedding
requires
breed.
grooming. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a non-shedding breed, you need to be brushing them constantly, every
Yeah.
day. Yeah. And
And
a
if
lot of
you
other breeds need
And
grooming.
if you don't want to make the investment in the every 6 week grooming, you better take some grooming classes and you better learn how to groom your own dog. I do have friends who have learned themselves how to groom their chosen breed because they want to be able to do it in house and they don't want the expense and all of that. So they took it upon themselves to take grooming classes so that they can groom their own dog. And that really is a thing.
Just a little sidebar. I tried to groom Jenny.
Kristi tried to groom Ginny. That's the black devil, everybody. This is
That's the black
hilarious.
devil. If
You
you
need to
followed
tell the
along,
story.
um, it did not go well. I just wanted to trim her up a little. She shed a lot. And like there were pillows of hair just
And it
rolling
was
through my
black
house.
fur.
Right, black fur everywhere. And she had an undercoat. And
Because
and
don't
I
forget,
bought some.
Ginny looked like a little Skipper Key kind of mix.
Yes. And so there was nobody to hold her. So I was just by myself with no idea what I was doing,
Oh my
trying to
God.
groom her with like a really cheap razor.
You guys, it's really
Um,
bad.
it looked like a drunk monkey shaved her. My friend's daughter who was like 3 at the time, was like, "Oh, you did not do a good job."
It's terrible.
It was very bad. So grooming is harder than it looks, guys. So if you're thinking I can
Please.
do that,
Told people to take a class, okay? Do not take
yeah,
a class of Kristi McNeely. That is not the class.
no. I was so convinced I could do it. And
Yep.
it was so bad, guys.
It was
So
so
bad.
bad. Okay, that was a little sidebar that was friggin' hilarious. Okay, so we're gonna groom our doodles.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
gonna educate doodle owners on grooming being required and not be jerks about it. Oh, also, if you see someone who is coming to training with their doodle or they are at a sports
Mhm.
competition with their doodle, can we not hate, please? These people love their damn dogs just like the rest of us. They are out doing something with their dog. And we can't on one side say people don't do enough with their dogs. They don't enrich their dogs. They don't blah, blah, blah their dogs. And then on the other side, have somebody out with a dog that isn't our choice and then be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, why is a doodle there? It's like, can't we all just
Damned
get
if you do,
along?
damned if you don't.
Yeah. Can we all just get along and just be there to support each other?
You
Yeah,
don't have to love their dog. That's okay. They're
that's
not
true.
asking you to. They're
But
just asking
allow
you to
them
give
to
them a
love
seat at
their
the
dog.
table.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I personally was at a training event, and there was a very unruly dog in the back that everyone had pegged as a doodle. And I mean, everyone was talking crap about this dog. And so there were several of us helping as extra hands, and everyone's like, oh, that doodle. Oh, that doodle. And I walked up and I heard everyone, and I go, you guys realize that's not actually a doodle, right? And they're
What
like,
was it?
oh, yeah, doodles are so misbehaved. I said, that's a Portuguese water dog.
Uh,
And it is unruly and it is having a fit, but it's also a puppy.
and
This is what's happening right now.
also, regardless of what it was, that person needed support and that dog needed support. We didn't need to
Absolutely.
sit and talk smack.
Yeah. who cares what breed it is? Like, let's just help them.
Because we have all had moments where our dogs, even perfect Tiago, has
No,
not shown his best.
don't tell
So
lies about Tiago.
I know, right? On his 6th birthday, like, what a dick am I?
Oh, happy birthday,
I
Tiago.
know. Tiago's 6, but really just 1, and we're aging him backward. Okay, so what's the whole point of this whole thing?
What is the whole point of this whole thing?
I think the point is if we shame people, we push them into making the absolute worst decision, which in our eyes would be going to an indiscriminate breeder who is just throwing some dogs together, not educating, not selling on contract, not taking the dog back if there's a problem. Instead, can we educate and guide people to a more informed choice that would be in any breed, a breeder who is following some guidelines that we would, in quotation marks, consider right?
Yeah. And just because it's not the breed for you, that's okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
if you see a doodle on the street, we are not asking you to run up to that person and go, "Oh my God, your doodle." We are just asking you to not scoff at them, to not
Yeah.
judge them, or to be rude to them. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. How about that?
How about that? Yeah. And let people just love the dogs that they have. That's all I want to do with my pit bull.
Fuck yeah.
I've heard it so many times that I shouldn't have gotten a pit bull or pit bull. Let's not transfer that onto Doodles.
Right.
Let's
'Cause
not
it's a real slippery
continue
slope.
that. Yeah. Let's learn from our past mistakes and realize like, hey, let's not judge a whole breed.
Don't be judgy bitches.
Don't. We never judge any of the other.
All right. So we're wrapping it up here.
Yeah, we're
We,
trying.
if anything, we have given you a little food for thought. If you like this episode, please, by all means, don't forget to rate us, share us, subscribe, and now follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. And if you didn't love this episode about Doodles, that's okay. We'll have something new in 2 weeks.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, guys.